Before 1961, 1 to 1.5% of all babies would experience bleeding within the first week of their life. And this bleeding would generally be from the umbilical cord or from their nose. It wasn't great, but it generally wasn't life-threatening. A smaller percentage, 8 to 10 babies out of 100,000, would experience later bleeding in their brain. And amongst these babies that experienced brain hemorrhaging, something like 20% would die, and 50% had lasting brain damage. These bleeding issues were caused by a vitamin K deficiency, and so starting in 1961, doctors began giving newborn babies shots of vitamin K right after they were born. And this effectively took the number of babies who experienced vitamin K deficiency bleeding down to 0. There were still a few very rare cases when a baby had another underlying medical problem. But by and large, it was a safe and effective treatment that saved a lot of lives. Just so you can put those numbers in perspective, in 1960, there were about 4 million babies born in the United States. That means something like 300 to 400 babies experienced severe brain hemorrhaging due to vitamin K deficiency. And that means that something like 60 to 80 probably died from it. But today in the US, we have approximately 0 babies dying from vitamin K deficiency, thanks to this very simple treatment. I know about this subject thanks to a pediatrician named Clay Jones, who was on this past week's episode of the Inquiring Minds podcast. And Dr. Jones talked about this subject because an alarming number of parents are beginning to instruct their doctors to not give their newborn babies vitamin K shots. There are a variety of reasons, but they all sort of seem to relate to the larger anti-vaccine movement. They believe the shots are unnatural. They believe they're unnecessary. They even believe that they may cause leukemia, thanks to one poorly done, long debunked study that came out of England in the 90s. In reality, there are no side effects to the vitamin K shot except for minor bruising around the injection. Now, doctors can prescribe an oral version of vitamin K, but it's not as effective. Studies show pretty conclusively that it's better than nothing, but it may not absorb because infants could easily vomit it up, or other medications could interfere with it, or parents could just forget to give their baby the appropriate number of doses required. The vitamin K shot is quick and simple and can be done before the newborn leaves the hospital. Dr. Jones pointed out there was recently a rash of 7 cases of vitamin K deficiency bleeding at one hospital. And of those 7, 4 had brain hemorrhaging, 2 of which required neurosurgery, and 1 had intestinal bleeding. Amazingly, none of the kids died, but the worst cases are going to have long-term health problems, including seizures and developmental problems. The doctors at that hospital are now pushing for a better system of tracking the number of vitamin K deficiency bleeding cases and the number of parents who are rejecting the vitamin K shot, so that we might be able to better tackle this problem head on. But it does seem like it's a worsening problem, and unfortunately, it seems as though it's only a matter of time before an infant dies due to this easily preventable condition. So once again, we have an excellent example of how anti-science propaganda can have drastic effects on, unfortunately, the most innocent population.